A code given to me by my father. He understood my childhood fated me to be like this. Just like your childhood fated you. To be like you are. But my father had a thing for justice.
I'm all about second chances when it comes to a TV series or franchises that I've enjoyed. It's why even after the disastrous ending to Game of Thrones, I hoped that House of the Dragon would revitalize the A Song of Ice and Fire world and put the franchise back on track. Season 1 wasn't perfect. It didn't match the quality we saw in the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, but it was still good, and it even had some glimpses of brilliance.
King Viserys of House Targaryen, the first of his name, King of the Andals, and the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm.
The finale was the perfect setup to the dance following the death of Lucerys over Storm's End. We're ready at this point for things to get crazy and for the bloody, costly war between the Blacks and the Greens to get underway. Instead, in Season 2, we got a meandering mess. We had one battle, but much of the story was focused on stopping a war that had already begun. The worst part, though, is that they were unfaithful to Martin's story, and I was worried from the start. The blood and cheese scene was underwhelming and watered down from the book version where Helena was forced to choose between her two children. It was cartoonish, too, to see a cloaked Daemon sneaking into King's Landing to set this up. This also initiated a laughable pattern where characters from both factions shuttled back and forth secretively between Dragonstone and King's Landing. Recently, Dexter Resurrection returned to take one final stab at getting their story right. For those that haven't watched this series before, it's sort of a vigilante show where Dexter goes outside the law and tracks down killers and finishes them off. Dexter, like Game of Thrones, had 4 great seasons, and then the quality began to diminish. One of the very best seasons of television was when John Lithgow took on the role of the Trinity Killer and became Dexter's most dangerous and ultimately costly adversary in Season 4.
He knows my name, occupation. He can find out about my family. My family. What the hell have I done?
Like Game of Thrones, the original Dexter series lasted 8 seasons and was also capped off with a dissatisfying and inappropriate ending that angered most fans. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil it now. So they concluded their original run with Dexter's sister being only kept alive by a ventilator, and he then takes her off of it, brings her onto a boat, and rides into a hurricane. Yeah, I'm not joking. In the final scene, we see him still alive as a lumberjack somewhere. No, Ryan Condal didn't have writing credits on this one. After many years, they came back to revive the franchise after the passage of much time. Dexter's son has grown and finds his father living a new life under a different identity in a rural area in New York State. And fortunately, they dropped that whole lumberjack thing. The show recaptured some of its old magic, but then once again, they got it all wrong by having Dexter get shot by his own son. Becoming the first franchise with 2 horrible endings is a unique accomplishment, so when fans heard they were going to give it one more try with Dexter Resurrection, most people were skeptical. But incredibly, they were able to pull it off to the surprise of just about everyone, and they're now going to revive the series for at least a couple more seasons. So if Dexter can make a miracle comeback, became a viable series again, is it possible for House of the Dragon to have its own resurrection in Season 3 or beyond? Well, that's where things get tricky. Some of the stuff is easy to get past. The pacing in Season 2 was terrible. Many fans complained that we basically left off at the end of Season 2 at the same point in 1, the cusp of all-out war. That, though, can be easily brushed aside. Even Daemon's detour into oblivion could be fixed with a sharp-focused story where he becomes the character we saw early on and not the fugue state version we suffered through in the last season. Rhaenyra was weak and stupid.
It's out of the question.
What would you have me do?
But like Daemon, a better storyline here could set the character back on track, even though Emma Darcy's portrayal of Rhaenyra has been grating on many of us. The biggest problem, though, is one that I addressed in this video last year. Having Alicent come to Rhaenyra, willing to sacrifice most of her family and give the Blacks King's Landing, completely sabotages Martin's Dance of the Dragon story. This is the equivalent to General Lee secretly coming to Lincoln at the White House to end America's Civil War. To make matters even worse, Allison has some sort of secret love for Rhaenyra as well. And I know some people constantly defend the show by saying Fire and Blood is a history, so it gives Condell, Hess, and their lackeys the latitude to change things. Well, in the books, Allison is about 10 years older than Rhaenyra. They weren't childhood friends, and while I was fine with this in season 1 because it personalized their story more, now that they've further distorted the story by hinting at feelings between the two, ones that are strong enough for her to betray her entire family, it goes way too far. About the only way you can fix this is if you make it that Allison is setting some sort of trap for Rhaenyra, but from everything we saw, not only in that episode, but everything leading up to it, that's not a path they're going to go down. One potential silver lining is that Emma Darcy and Olivia Cooke laughed in an interview when asked if their characters would be taken in a romantic direction. But if they truly think the question is ridiculous, then it makes the filming of that final scene between the two even more bizarre, because that's what the audience came away with. And this speaks to the lack of focus, poor writing, and disjointed narrative we saw in season 2. In the end, it comes down to Ryan Condell, and what he said back in March during an Entertainment Weekly interview isn't encouraging. Condell said, "I will simply say I made every effort to include George in the adaptation process. I really did. Over years and years. And we really enjoyed a mutually fruitful, I thought, really strong collaboration for a long time. But at some point, as we got deeper down the road, he just became unwilling to acknowledge the practical issues at hand in a reasonable way. And I think as a showrunner, I have to keep my practical producer hat on and my creative writer, love of the material hat on at the same time. At the end of the day, I just have to keep marching not only on the writing process, but also on the practical parts of the process forward for the sake of the crew, the cast, and for HBO, because that's my job." Some real corporate speak there and no acknowledgement of the mistakes made. The thing is that Martin's problems are not nitpicks. It's that the essence of his story has been transformed into something different. And if they continue down that path, not listening to George or the negative feedback from fans, there will be no resurrection like with Dexter. What's remarkable about Clyde Phillips, the showrunner of Dexter, is that he directly admitted the mistakes made in the past with the series, not just by making changes in the new show, but by confronting it head on, with the main character, Dexter, breaking the fourth wall in the final scene and speaking to the audience.
I'm Dexter Morgan. I'm exactly who I need to be. Exactly who you want me to be.
This is a rarity in entertainment, the creators fully owning their mistakes. In doing so, they're letting the audience know that they realize that they screwed up, and we can trust them for the rest of the journey. With Condell and company, they don't have the same self-awareness. It doesn't matter what fans of A Song of Ice and Fire think, and even the writer himself. And we've all seen where this sort of hubris leads. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to hit the like button. If you're interested in more on House of the Dragon and A Song of Ice and Fire, listen to Caraxes and subscribe. I want to thank everyone for watching, and I'll see you soon.